So I'm third generation military, fourth generation law enforcement. Joined the Marine Corps when I was 18, did 7.5 years in the reserves, and then been in the Coast Guard for coming up on 6 years now, and then been a cop for 11 years. One city south of San Francisco is where I started as a cop, and now I'm in Lafayette, Louisiana. Obviously, through that, we know suicides occur. You're going to experience critical incidents. You're going to endure some trauma. Ultimately, I lost one of my friends to suicide. And then when I joined the Coast Guard, I met my buddy Jesse, who's the co-founder of the Overwatch Collective as well. He was also in the Marine Corps, and then we met in the Coast Guard. And this was going on, during COVID when everybody started to do podcasts because you were at home losing your minds. We started a podcast just talking about the stigma, the lack of resources amongst the first responder and military community, why we're seeing so many divorces, substance misuse, etc. And we had people from the military and first responder community on the podcast to share what their job is like and what's really not talked about. And then we had people on who've attempted suicide, spouses of a first responder who lost them to suicide. And we were doing like an episode a week, and people were like, hey, this is really great. Like, you need to continue this. So we started to receive quite a bit of donations, and we were like, okay, like, we're not just going to make money off the podcast. Like, what can we do? So we turned it into a 501c3 nonprofit with the intent to fund therapy for our community. So we contracted our first therapist. We didn't really know what we were doing or what we were looking for, but we were like, hey, we want to somehow work with you, and then we'll pay for people to go see you. So that's when we first started out in August of 2022. And then now it's transformed to, we have a pretty thorough vetting process. We cover 49 states currently. We have around 75 contracted therapists. We fund 100% of the cost for the first 3 sessions, no matter what the price is. Our cap that our therapist contract with is $160 for a session. So we pay 3 sessions at 100%, and then we go into a tiered system after that. So we cover 60% for the next 3, 50% for the next 3, and so on. And then if at any point they need to go back a tier or go back to the 100% for the 3 sessions, then based on their financial needs, we'll do a vote. The board of directors will vote, and we'll bring them back. So that's kind of it on that side. And then we fund 50% of the cost for some of the retreats that are paid, where you do have to pay. So there's a few retreats where it's like $5,200 for 5 days, and they're expensive, right? But Josh, like what you mentioned, they're life-changing and it's amazing. The challenge is some departments don't want to pay that amount of money, right? So they kind of leave it on the first responder to fork out $5,200 because insurance is more often than not a pain in the butt. So we cover 50% of the cost and then kind of assist them in raising funds to get the rest so that they can actually go and attend. So I think we've connected 8 or 9 people to these retreats, and they've gone because of us. And then we're at like $13,000 spent on that.
That's awesome.
A total of $318,000 spent on therapy and retreats. 288 people have gone through us to get connected to our therapist or to go to the retreats. And then we've either fully covered or financially assisted like 3,031 therapy sessions. So it's cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I appreciate
you
it.
mentioned the number 288 people have received therapy retreats, but it's like, man, that person, their wellness impacts the spouse, it impacts the kids, it impacts the community. And so it's like that number, I'm sure, is multiplied substantially of the amount of people that are impacted by what you guys are doing. So I think it's really cool. And even like after coming across you guys, I was like, oh wow, as people come through our retreats, we're not the end all be all. And sometimes people come through and we recognize that, they do need to see a qualified clinician. And so to have a resource like you all to say, hey, this is a great start to your journey. You do need someone to work with you continuing forward. I just think what you guys are doing is fantastic to be able to transition some of our guests over to what you guys are doing.